Late one autumn night in 2019, in a small town in Pennsylvania, an eerie and spine-chilling incident took place at an old gas station. The gas station had been around for decades, and it had a reputation for being a place where strange things happened. Locals would sometimes tell stories of hearing inexplicable noises or seeing ghostly figures late at night. On this particular night, a young woman named Sarah was working the graveyard shift at the gas station. She was used to the quiet, slow pace of the night shift and had never experienced anything unusual herself. However, that was about to change. As the clock struck midnight, the wind began to pick up, and a dense fog started to roll in. Sarah, alone at the gas station, huddled in her jacket and continued to monitor the security cameras. Around 12:30 a.m., an old rusty pickup truck pulled into the station. The driver, a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard and tired eyes, got out and began filling his tank. Sarah thought nothing of it and continued her routine. As the man finished pumping gas, he entered the station to pay. The door creaked open, and the bell above it jingled, alerting Sarah to the presence of a customer. The man approached the counter and handed over cash for the gas. As they exchanged pleasantries, Sarah noticed the man had a pungent odor, like damp earth mixed with decay. He paid no mind to her reaction, thanked her, and left the station. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about him. After the man left, she couldn't help but watch him through the window. He climbed back into his truck, but instead of driving away, he just sat there, staring at the station. Feeling uneasy, Sarah decided to call the police for a welfare check. She didn't want to cause any trouble, but she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. The police assured her they'd send a patrol car by to check on the situation. When the patrol car arrived, the truck had vanished. The officers reassured Sarah that everything seemed fine and that it was probably just a driver taking a break before continuing on his way. But as the night went on, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was still very wrong. She became increasingly paranoid and on edge. Every creak, every gust of wind, every flicker of the dim overhead lights made her jump. Finally, around 3 a.m., Sarah decided to take a break and step outside for some fresh air. The fog had lifted, and the night was eerily calm. She took a deep breath, trying to clear her head. As she exhaled, she noticed something out of the corner of her eye, in the shadows near the edge of the gas station lot. She squinted, trying to make out what it was, but it was too dark. Suddenly the figure stepped out of the shadows and into the dim light. It was the man from earlier, the one who had been in the pickup truck. He was standing there, staring directly at her, his expression blank. Sarah, frozen with fear, couldn't bring herself to move. The man started to walk toward her, slowly and deliberately. His eyes never left hers. Desperate to escape, she mustered the courage to turn and run back into the station, locking the door behind her. She frantically dialed 911 and begged them to send help. As she spoke to the operator, she watched the man approach the locked door. He tried the handle, but finding it locked, simply stood there, staring at her through the glass. Within minutes, the police arrived on the scene, and the man was arrested without resistance. As they handcuffed him, Sarah noticed that the pungent odor she had smelled earlier seemed to be even stronger. The police searched the man's truck and made a horrifying discovery. In the bed of the truck, partially hidden under a tarp, was the decomposing body of a woman. The officers immediately called for backup and began to secure the scene. Sarah, still trembling from the encounter, watched as the man was taken away. The officers assured her that she had done the right thing by calling them, and that her quick thinking had likely prevented a terrible situation from escalating. In the days that followed, the investigation revealed that the man was a wanted serial killer who had been on the run for months. He had been using the foggy, quiet nights to carry out his gruesome crimes, preying on lone travelers and hitchhikers. The small town was shaken to its core by the events that unfolded that night at the gas station. The community came together to support Sarah, who was hailed as a hero for her actions. Sarah, however, couldn't help but be haunted by the chilling memories of that night. The eyes of the killer, the smell of decay, and the feeling of being watched stayed with her for years. She eventually moved away from the town, seeking to put as much distance as possible between herself and the gas station where her life had been forever changed. The gas station itself, already notorious for its eerie reputation, became forever linked to the chilling true story of the night Sarah came face to face with a serial killer. In the summer of 2015, a series of sinister events unfolded at a remote gas station in the deserts of Arizona. The gas station, located along a desolate stretch of highway, was a popular stop for long-haul truckers and weary travelers. The station was owned by a gruff old man named Hank, who had run the place for years. He lived in a small house behind the station, and his only employee was a young man named Travis. Despite the remote location, Hank and Travis managed to keep the business afloat, thanks to the steady stream of customers passing through. One sweltering afternoon, a young woman named Lisa stopped at the station to refuel her car. As she filled her tank, she struck up a conversation with Travis, who was tending to the pumps. Lisa explained that she was on a solo road trip across the country, seeking adventure and new experiences. The two chatted for a while, and Lisa mentioned that she was having trouble finding a place to stay for the night. Travis, being the friendly local he was, offered her a place to stay in his small trailer, which he had parked on the property. Lisa, grateful for the offer, accepted. That night, Lisa awoke to strange noises outside her window. She peered out into the darkness, but couldn't see anything. The wind howled through the desert, causing the trailer to creak and sway. Feeling uneasy, she decided to stay awake for a while, listening for any further disturbances. Hours later, Lisa heard footsteps approaching the trailer. She saw the silhouette of a man standing outside the door, his face obscured by the darkness. Fearing for her safety, she quickly dialed 911 and whispered her situation to the operator. The police arrived within 20 minutes, but by the time they got there, the mysterious figure had vanished. They searched the area, but found no sign of anyone lurking around the property. Lisa was visibly shaken, but the officers assured her that she was safe and encouraged her to get some rest. The following day, Lisa thanked Travis for his hospitality and continued on her journey. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the gas station, but chalked it up to her imagination. 2 weeks later, another traveler named Mark stopped at the same gas station. He had heard about the strange events from a fellow traveler and was curious to see the place for himself. Upon arriving, he noticed the place seemed eerily quiet, and the only person there was Hank. Mark asked Hank about the recent incidents and whether there was any truth to the rumors. Hank, visibly agitated, dismissed the stories as nonsense and insisted that the station was perfectly safe. That night, as Mark slept in his car, he was awoken by the sound of footsteps. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out to investigate, but saw nothing. He decided to take a walk around the property, hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever was causing the disturbance. As he walked around the back of the station, he spotted a door slightly ajar. Curiosity getting the better of him, Mark decided to investigate. He slowly pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was filled with an overpowering stench of decay. Mark's flashlight illuminated the horrifying scene before him. The walls were lined with the dismembered and rotting remains of several people. Among the gruesome display, he recognized the face of Lisa, the young woman who had disappeared weeks earlier. Terrified, Mark fled the scene and immediately called the police. Within hours, the station was swarming with officers and forensic investigators. It was revealed that Hank had been abducting and murdering travelers who stopped at his gas station for years, hiding their remains in a secret chamber behind the station. Hank was arrested, and the small community was in shock at the gruesome discovery. The police found evidence that Hank had been responsible for the deaths of at least 12 people over the years. Many of the victims had been solo travelers or drifters, making it difficult for authorities to connect the cases and identify the missing persons. As the news spread, locals and travelers alike were left feeling horrified and betrayed. The gas station, once a refuge for weary travelers, had become a place of unspeakable terror. The investigation continued for months as authorities worked to piece together the chilling puzzle of Hank's twisted crimes. Travis, who had been completely unaware of his employer's dark secret, was both devastated and horrified. He cooperated fully with the investigation and was eventually cleared of any involvement. However, the guilt and trauma of unknowingly working alongside a serial killer weighed heavily on him, and he left town shortly after the gas station was permanently closed. The grisly events at the Arizona gas station became a chilling reminder of the potential dangers lurking in the most unexpected places. travelers passing through the area would share whispered stories of the murderous owner and his hidden chamber of horrors, cautioning others to be careful where they stopped on their journeys. As for the gas station, it was eventually demolished, leaving behind only an empty lot and a dark, chilling legacy. The story of Hank and his gruesome crimes served as a terrifying reminder that true horror can be found in the most ordinary of places, hidden in plain sight. In the winter of 2009, a chilling event took place at an isolated gas station in the mountains of Colorado. The station, known as Alpine Pass Gas and Go, was a popular stop for skiers, snowboarders, and travelers passing through the region. The gas station was run by a middle-aged couple, Gary and Elaine, who had recently purchased the business, seeking a quieter life in the mountains. The couple lived in a small cabin not far from the station and were well liked by the local community. One stormy night, as snow began to fall heavily, a young couple named Tom and Heather stopped at the gas station to refuel their car. They had been driving for hours in the treacherous weather and were eager to reach their destination, a cozy ski resort a few miles away. As Tom filled the tank, Heather went inside the station to grab some snacks and use the restroom. She noticed Gary and Elaine were acting strange, exchanging nervous glances and whispering to each other. Heather didn't think much of it, assuming the couple was simply concerned about the worsening weather. After paying for their gas and supplies, Tom and Heather said their goodbyes and continued on their way. The snowstorm had intensified, and visibility was reduced to near zero. Despite the hazardous conditions, they pressed on, determined to reach the ski resort. About a mile down the road, Tom noticed a faint light flickering in the distance. Curious, he slowed down and realized it was a car, stranded on the side of the road with its hazard lights on. He decided to pull over and offer assistance. As they approached the vehicle, they discovered a young woman, visibly shaken, huddled in the driver's seat. She introduced herself as Abby and explained that her car had broken down in the middle of the storm. Concerned for her safety, Tom and Heather invited Abby to join them, and together they headed back to the Alpine Pass Gas and Go, hoping to find help. When they arrived, Gary and Elaine were still there, and they quickly agreed to let Abby stay in their cabin until the storm subsided. That night, as the wind howled outside and the snow piled up, Tom and Heather awoke to the sound of frantic pounding on their cabin door. It was Abby, drenched in blood and sobbing uncontrollably. She managed to choke out a horrifying story. While staying in Gary and Elaine's cabin, she had been awakened by strange noises coming from the basement. Against her better judgment, she decided to investigate, and what she found was a scene straight out of a nightmare. The basement was a makeshift torture chamber, filled with blood-stained tools and the mutilated bodies of several missing travelers. Abby had stumbled upon Gary and Elaine's horrifying secret. They were serial killers, preying on those who sought shelter at their gas station. In a panic, Abby had fled the cabin and run through the snowstorm to find help. Tom and Heather, horrified by her story, quickly called the police. Within minutes, officers were on the scene surrounding Gary and Elaine's cabin. As the police apprehended the couple and searched the property, they discovered the gruesome remains of at least 10 victims. The couple had been abducting, torturing, and murdering unsuspecting travelers for months, hiding their dark deeds beneath the cover of the remote gas station. The news of the horrifying events at the Alpine Pass Gas and Go sent shockwaves through the community and the nation. Tom, Heather, and Abby were hailed as heroes for their role in uncovering and stopping the murderous couple. In the years that followed, the once tranquil gas station became a chilling reminder of the hidden evils that can lurk even in the most remote and idyllic settings. The community struggled to come to terms with the fact that such unspeakable acts had occurred in their own backyard. Gary and Elaine were tried and convicted for their heinous crimes, and the full extent of their depravity was exposed during the trial. It was revealed that they had meticulously planned and executed their murders, taking advantage of their isolated location and the vulnerability of travelers seeking shelter from the harsh mountain weather. The Alpine Pass Gas and Go was eventually closed down and left abandoned, a grim reminder of the atrocities that had taken place there. The locals, as well as travelers passing through the area, would often share hushed stories about the sinister events that unfolded at the once popular rest stop. As for Tom, Heather, and Abby, The events of that harrowing night left a lasting impact on their lives. They remained in touch, forging an unbreakable bond forged from their shared experience. Although they eventually moved on, they never forgot the terror they had faced together and the evil they had helped to uncover. The chilling tale of the Alpine Pass Gas and Go served as a cautionary reminder that even the most picturesque and seemingly peaceful places can harbor dark and hidden secrets. The story of Gary and Elaine's gruesome crimes would forever be etched into the collective memory of those who had lived through or heard of the horrifying events at the remote mountain gas station.